Wheel of Time community, and welcome to the Wheel of Time Pod-Thru. I'm Teresa.
And I'm Tim.
And together, we're going to walk through Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time book series. How you doing, Tim?
I'm doing good. It's been an interesting week, but I'm ready to do a podcast.
It has been a week.
It really has. Fires and all kinds of stuff here in California. It's been and other stuff too.
And we've been sick. So we went on vacation, and then we came home, and then Tim got sick, and then Tim shared with me.
Sick, yeah. Well,
yeah, so we've been sick. So it's been a week.
It has been. But I'm ready to do a podcast.
Well, good. So before we get started, we just want to remind you that this is a reread. We assume that you have read the entire series, so there will be spoilers. You have been warned. All right, Tim, what are we going to be doing in today's episode?
Today we'll be discussing chapters 18 and 19 of the Dragon Reborn, where we finally get around to healing Matt.
It's about time.
Right? Chapter 18 is called Healing, and the icon is the sword for some reason.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a second. Why is the icon the sword?
I don't know. I mean, there's a battle scene that he kind of flashes. No, that's not this. I don't know why I don't know why. Yeah,
I don't get it. Like, the only thing I can think of, honestly, is that it was just a mistake.
That could be because the author doesn't get to, like, pick all that stuff. That's a publisher thing.
Right. And there is an icon that's the ruby-hilted dagger, which probably should have been the icon for this chapter.
Yeah, that totally should have been the icon.
Because the only icons that make sense would have been the Flame of Tarvalon, the ruby-hilted dagger, and the dice, but we haven't been introduced to the dice yet. The dice don't happen until the next chapter.
Right.
So really it should have only been either the ruby-hilted dagger or the Flame of Tarvalon. So I have no idea why we've got the sword icon.
Well, it would make sense if they accidentally used the sword instead of the ruby-hilted dagger, because, a blade's a blade, right?
Right.
So,
but it's just weird that, that hasn't been fixed after all these years.
Huh. Interesting.
I don't know. I just think it's weird because this icon makes zero sense. Here's a quick summary to act as a reminder for those of you who are not reading along with us. Sheriam leads the girls deep inside the tower to a chamber where Matt lay on a table surrounded by Aes Sedai, including the Amerlin seat. Egwene recognized some of them, and Sheriam joined in to bring their total to 10. One of the Aes Sedai presents the Amerlin with a plain wooden box, and Swan pulls out a fluted white wand. Egwene recognizes the wand from her studies. It was a sangreal, the strongest one the tower possessed. Even with such a powerful tool, little signs of anxiety showed on the Aes Sedai's faces, and Egwene realizes that they were not sure if they could heal Matt. She thinks what a good thing it was that the three of them did not try to heal him after all. They probably would have killed him and themselves trying. The Aes Sedai form a circle in the power, with Swan leading the channeling through the wand. Egwene can feel the pull of Sidar beckoning to her, and can tell that Nynaeve and Elaine beside her can feel it too. On the table, Matt jerked and thrashed violently, the hold of Shatter Logoth dagger resisting the healing. Egwene tells the others that the Aes Sedai are killing him, and Nynaeve says that they have no choice but to trust them. Suddenly, Matt started shouting things in Old Tongue. The little bit that Egwene could understand was, "For the honor of the Red Eagle," the ancient war cry of Manetheren. The dagger rose above Matt, and he opened his eyes, glaring at the Aes Sedai and shouting at them in the Old Tongue. Anaya produced a box from under the table with thick walls and locked the dagger away inside. As soon as the dagger was hidden, Matt collapsed again, unconscious. The Amerlin pronounced the healing done, and the Aes Sedai start to leave. Nynaeve asks if Matt will be okay, and Swan tells her that only time will tell. The bond with the dagger has been broken, but they can't predict the effect carrying the dagger for so long will have on Matt. He should live. Elaine asks what he was shouting in Old Tongue, and Swan tells them that he was ordering soldiers in a battle 2,000 years gone. Nynaeve calls her out that there was more to it than that because she heard him say the words Aes Sedai. Swan says that it seemed his mind was in two places at once, partly in the past battle and partly aware of what was going on around him. He shouted that he was a free man and no easy Aes Sedai meat. Egwene wants to stay with Matt if there's still a possibility that he could die, but the Amerlin reminds them that they have chores and sends them on their way. Matt still had not moved, but the girls have no choice but to follow Sheriam out to the kitchens.
Jordan set up a creepy scene here at the top of the chapter. Like, instead of going to a place that's well lit, like we'd expect for a healing, we go to a dungeon-like room in the bowels of the tower.
It is pretty creepy.
So after surviving the Gray Man and talking about the Black Aja, they're wound up and seeing danger around every corner. Mm-hmm. Jordan is trying to keep us on our toes, building the suspense. And on my first read, I kind of... It made me think that the girls were going to get ambushed here.
Absolutely. Yeah, totally. I'm a little confused about the Aes Sedai that were present for the healing.
Okay.
Like, first of all, why are there only 10 and not a full circle of 13? And why are there no yellows? I mean, okay, so Swan was originally blue, and so are Leanne, Anaya, and Sheriam.
Right.
Then Seraphel and Varen are both brown. Alana is a green, and Brendas is the cool-eyed white. Now, granted, Egwene doesn't know all of the Aes Sedai, so the remaining 2 might be yellow, but it seems strange that yellows aren't specifically mentioned in a healing.
Yeah, a little bit, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I guess what they're doing for Matt isn't a standard healing, so maybe that's why. But I don't know, man. Like, what do you think?
Well, I've definitely asked this question a lot myself, and the only answer I can come up with is Swan just didn't trust enough people to bring them in. Mm-hmm. You know, like she's having people around Matt and separating him from the dagger exposes them to discovering the truth about the horn as well.
Yeah,
so
it raises questions.
The fewer people who are exposed to the person who blew the horn, the better if we want to keep it a secret. Mm-hmm. So these are probably either Aes Sedai that maybe she doesn't trust them, but at least she knows they're innocuous. Mm-hmm. Like, she can trust them at that level, that they'll just come in and get the job done and go on about their way. But yeah, it does seem really weird that we only have 10, because later we learned about a full circle consists of 13.
And I mean, like, okay, fair enough. Like, maybe Swan just didn't trust enough people to make a full circle.
Right.
I just think it's so weird that there aren't any yellows mentioned. You know?
Yeah.
That's the whole point of being yellow. Is to heal. And this is a pretty substantial healing. I mean, it's not just a healing. Like, there's other stuff going on.
Right.
Which I guess is why.
Like, Swan even calls it a separation.
Yeah.
They've separated him from the dagger, and it's not so much a healing, I guess. But you're right. Yeah. I'm still quizzically scratching my head going, but shouldn't there have been at least one yellow?
Yeah. It seems really strange to me. And, like, granted, I'm pretty sure a couple of the Aes Sedai that are mentioned do have a talent for healing. Like, I think Alana...
Yes, I think she does.
At least decent skill at healing. But Varen is crap at healing. And I want to say Swan is too, which is interesting that she's leading this group. But hey, whatever. She's the Emerald. She can do what she wants. But I don't know. I think it's really strange that there's no yellow. I mean, maybe it's because it was early enough in the series that Jordan hadn't, like, hammered out what all the colors do yet.
Maybe. Something else that just popped into my mind as we're talking about this is that maybe it was less about ability to heal and more about ability to pull the power.
Yeah,
like strengthen the power.
Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely true too. But, like, are you trying to tell me there's no really, really strong yellows?
Well, no, I'm just
none that she could trust.
I'm just shooting from the hip and hadn't thought that far ahead yet.
Include, was it Ramonda? Is she?
Yes, let's bring
strong,
Ramonda.
But you don't want that woman in this room.
Oh no, you don't. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
It's Aes Sedai politics. It's probably so complicated that it would take us, hours to, like, dissect it.
Yeah.
But you're right. It's a valid question. Why no yellows and why only 10?
Yeah, I think it probably has more to do with early book syndrome than anything else. But it caught my attention. Why these Aes Sedai and why no yellows?
But we do get to see the wand.
We do.
Which is Vora's Sangreal.
Yeah,
right?
Vora's Sangreal.
So it's what Egwene will wield to fend off the Shanshan attack later in the series. Mm-hmm. And, of course, in the last battle. Like,
Where
Jordan...
she kicks ass.
Yeah. But Jordan brings it into the story all the way back here, like he does with so many other things. It's just this little nugget.
Yeah.
But we have this passing thing, we see it used for something, and have no idea the significance of this artifact.
Yeah.
We'll have later on in the story. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's like the Vanishing Cabinet in Harry Potter.
Right.
It's mentions in like the first or second book.
Yeah, so do a shot, Danny. But yeah. Egwene realizes that a circle of 10 fully trained Aes Sedai with the most powerful Sangreal in the tower may not be enough to heal Mat, and she finally understands how out of their depth they were to think the three of them could do it. Like, they have a lot to learn.
Yeah.
when that many Aes Sedai are actually like almost about to break into a sweat because they're so nervous, like shit's getting real.
They would have killed themselves dead.
Oh, absolutely. The description of Mat and the dagger is pretty intense. Like, with his gaunt face and everything, I kind of pictured like the photos of Holocaust survivors when I read this, like how they looked so close to death.
Yeah, he's really wasted away.
Yeah, and the dagger is such a sharp contrast to that, like because it has literally been sucking the life out of Mat.
Yeah, like the dagger is super vibrant and it's putting up one hell of a fight.
Yeah, and it's glowing so red because Mat's almost dead. It's like it has a life of its own, and it fights hard against the healing. It's almost like Mat's possessed.
Yeah. No, it was a really intense scene. We get more description about how tempting and addictive the power is. The girls can feel the pull of Sidar physically. It's beckoning to them. All three are having a hard time resisting embracing the source. And I like that we get a similar perspective from both Egwene and Rand.
Yeah.
It shows that it's not just tainted Sidin that tempts Rand, but the power in general has this drug-like quality to it, even for the women.
Right.
Like, it highlights how easy it would be to pull in too much and how seductive the temptation is to do so, especially before you've been properly trained.
Right.
You know? And I love the part where Nynaeve realizes that she could handle about half of the power being channeled. So she could channel half of what 10 full Aes Sedai did with the most powerful Sangreal in the tower. That is an insane amount of power.
It sure is.
And she's both horrified and also a little bit in awe of what she's capable of.
Right? Yeah.
Like, we're going to see Nynaeve channel massive amounts of the power throughout the series. And it's going to be epic.
Yeah. I'm so looking forward to those things.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely. I mean, it's no secret that we love Nynaeve. And there's just some amazing stuff that happens.
So Mat starts yelling in the Old Tongue. This is before he goes through the door. So this is before memories are placed in his head.
Right.
I'd like to think that this is Mat's Manetheren blood coming out. Like, first he's commanding a battle, and then he's yelling at the Aes Sedai. I think he's remembering the betrayal of the tower that led to their destruction. The alternative is that he's remembering a time when Aes Sedai did not seek permission before bonding a warder. But I think it's the prejudice speaking, since this is with Mat for the entire series. What do you think?
Oh, absolutely. I think a lot of the anger came from the dagger and the evil of Shatter Logoth trying to keep its hold on Mat. But I also think Mat has some past life aggression towards Aes Sedai.
Just a little.
Like,
just a little.
Manetheren was allied with Tar-Vlan until the Amyrlin betrayed them.
Right.
So it makes perfect sense that past life Mat would be angry at Aes Sedai.
And be as far away from them as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. So, in regards to Mat shouting in the Old Tongue, Egwene thinks, in some way, it seemed for a moment that she should understand the rest too, as if the meaning were just out of sight and all she had to do was turn her head to know. This has happened before. In the Eye of the World, Egwene felt she could almost understand Old Tongue, even though she hadn't been exposed to it.
Right.
Does this ever get paid off or explained? Like, I feel like since Jordan kept bringing it up, that it's important, but I don't remember anything ever coming of it. Do you?
You know, not specifically the old tongue, like being able to understand it or speak it or translate it. That never really manifests for Egwene at all in the series.
Yeah.
I think what Jordan is trying to do, like in specific places like this, because it's from Egwene's perspective, I think he's trying to bring out that theme of the old blood of Manetheren sings strongly. Because we'll hear Varen say that a lot when we get to the Shadow Rising, as they. Did you throw a stone anywhere in the Two Rivers and you find a girl who can channel, right?
Right.
So, like, I think this is partly laying the foundation for us to be able to accept that later. It's that
makes sense.
Like if Egwene can just have the sense that she remembers the old tongue, which really has nothing to do with channeling.
Right.
It would make sense that the old blood singing is something that we're prepped for to accept.
Okay. I can buy that. That makes sense. So this chapter ends with the question of if Mat is going to die. Spoiler alert, he doesn't. So we skipped over a lot of the action in this chapter, but it's actually pretty intense.
Yeah.
I cannot wait to see it played out on screen.
Yeah, right?
Like, I'm so excited to see how the TV show handles channeling, and this is going to be a really, really cool scene to watch.
It's a good thing they got to cover 2 books worth of stuff before they get to this, so they can get all the special effects and everything. Like fine-tuned, yeah.
But it's going to be really good.
Really going to be good on scene. That wraps up Chapter 18. But before we get to Chapter 19, here's a quick word from our sponsors.
Today's episode of the Wheel of Time Pod-Thru is brought to you by Matt Coffin 2.0. We heard your feedback and addressed your complaints. Let me introduce you to Matt Coffin 2.0. Forget the old version. This new installation is a vast improvement on our previous product. Now with 30% less whining, 60% less suspicion, and 80% more fun. Matt Coffin 2.0. New, improved, and ready for deployment. Known bugs include holes in memory and an increased rate of resource consumption, but stay tuned for our next patch.
Chapter 19 is called Awakening, and the icon is the dice.
Yay, Matt's dice!
Yay!
New icon alert. Matt wakes up with fragmented, hazy memories of the events of the last 2 books, as well as flashbacks to battles from long ago. From his jumbled memories, he knows that he's been sick and that the girls brought him to the tower to be healed. He manages to get himself out of bed and totters to a mirror to see his gaunt, wasted body, hollow cheeks, and dark, sunken eyes. He spies a covered tray on a table and removes the cloth to find it piled high with food, enough to feed 4 men. He starts to eat while he tries to figure out what to do. He draws on the lessons his father taught him to slow down and think at things from every angle to try to turn them to his advantage. He doesn't love that he's in the White Tower, and the thought of the power being used on him makes him shudder. But what's done is done, and it's better than being dead. He remembers that Rand is the Dragon Reborn, that Egwene and Nynaeve want to be Aes Sedai, and that Perrin has been acting crazy since his eyes went all funny. And Matt decides that he has to look after himself. His old dreams of owning the largest farm in the 2 Rivers and being an excellent horse trader like his father feel small and cramped to him now. He wants to see the world. He decides to spend a day to see the city and try to find a dice game to pad his purse before heading off. He wants to talk to Egwene and Nynaeve before he leaves to see if they've come to their senses and given up this Aes Sedai foolishness. He vows to go home one day, but first he will go out and see something of the world without any Aes Sedai making him dance to her tune. Matt reaches for more food and finds the tray empty. He managed to eat all of that food while he was musing and making plans. Still hungry, he scrapes up the few remaining crumbs and suddenly remembers that he blew the horn of Valyr. He's not sure who knows about it, and plans to lie if they ask him. If they already know the truth, well, he'll jump off that bridge when he comes to it. A soft knock on the door brought him swaying to his feet, ready to run, but there was nowhere to go, and he didn't have the strength for more than a few steps anyway. He was trapped there, watching the door open.
I'm so glad to have the new improved Matt.
Seriously. And this is the first POV from Matt that we've gotten in the series.
Oh, yeah, huh?
And the introduction of a signature dice icon.
Yes. Time to roll the dice.
Isn't that crazy that this is the first POV from Matt?
Yeah, like, until you had mentioned that, getting ready for this podcast, like, I I actually had to go back and like think about it and check, but yeah, this is the first time we're inside Matt's head, which is really cool because this is like what I consider to be the true Matt anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The flashback that Matt has is really cool. Like, one thing that Jordan does well, at least in my opinion, is making accurate military battle look interesting. Like, some others can get really into the details of how logistics of battle play out, and it gets technical and boring. But Jordan gives us exposition on a lot of details here without losing the suspense of the battle. Add that to the reference of Manetheren, the Red Eagle, and tossing the dice, and there's just so much about this flashback that just makes me happy.
Because the Aes Sedai use the old version of healing on Matt, which takes energy out of the person being healed, Matt is starving.
Yeah.
His body was wasted away from the dagger already, and this is the start of Matt's enormous appetite for the rest of the book.
Right.
Jordan plays it for comedy, and I think pretty successfully. And it's really fun to watch how everyone reacts to him constantly eating an army's worth of food.
He's a growing boy.
I just remember a scene with all the chickens.
Oh, yes. And Tom just like...
Tom's like, no, what?
Huh?
No.
Who are you? Yeah. One thing I was glad didn't happen with Matt is that he didn't have a desire to seek the dagger after he'd been healed. That's just too Lord of the Ring for my taste.
Yeah.
So I like when he remembers the dagger here, it's not his precious. He has a moment where he offhandedly thinks about maybe selling the ruby to the Coplins back home, but he also realizes that he couldn't stand carrying it that far.
Yeah.
Not the best character moment for him, but it illustrates how he is not connected to the dagger anymore.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I agree. Good choice.
And we don't hear a lot from Abel Cawthon. Not very much in the series. But when we do, it's almost always something worth remembering. Like, quote, "You can turn the worst that comes to your advantage if you only think." Matt is easy to write off as an impulsive person, but when it's really important, he does think things through. He may not come to the same conclusion that everybody else does, but he does use his head more than he will ever let on. And he learned that from his dad.
Yeah. So this may be the new and improved Matt, but he's still kind of a jerk.
Well, yeah.
Like, he didn't get a personality transplant. Matt's character is the lovable asshole.
Absolutely.
So he's still going to have selfish impulses. The important thing with Matt is to pay attention to what he does, not what he says. He will grouse and complain and talk a good game of looking out for number one. But when the chips are down, he always comes through.
Yeah.
He's a lot like Nynaeve that way. They're both excellent at lying to themselves, never admit when they're wrong, and sometimes you just want to smack them both. But they are ultimately very self-sacrificing. They're pretty similar, which is probably why they get along so poorly.
Matt's first plan of action is to find Egwene and Nynaeve. His first instinct is to get the girls and himself away from Tarvalon. But this chapter is Matt thinking out loud, so he's changing his mind as he talks. We go from find the girls and leave to see the city on his own and leave, and then finally to just get away from all Aes Sedai.
Matt vows to go home one day, but he never does.
Yeah.
We're still early enough in the series that our core group still have a strong connection to the Two Rivers and still feel like they will return at some point. Except for Perrin, we'll see all of them come to realize that they can never go home again. It's like Matt says here, the dreams he once had are too small for him now. And in a way, the Two Rivers itself is too small to hold them. Despite how strong the old blood is, especially with Matt and Egwene, Perrin is the only one who keeps the Two Rivers at his center.
Yeah.
It's really interesting that the old blood is strongest and shows itself most readily in Matt and Egwene, but they're actually the two that have the weakest tie to home and move on past the Two Rivers the most easily. I wonder why that is.
You know, until you had mentioned that, I hadn't thought about the significance of that. Like the fact that, yeah, they are the two in our core group that have the strongest like ties to home, but they never come back.
Yeah, and they're able to get there faster than like Rand or Nynaeve. And I wonder if because they have the strongest manifestation of the old blood in them, if they're able to move past the two rivers so quickly, because in essence they take some of the two rivers with them wherever they go.
You know, that's an interesting way of looking at it.
Because the old blood is so strong in them.
Yeah.
They are home even when they're not. So maybe that's why they come to the realization of they don't have to be in the physical place anymore.
It could be. Or it's just that...
Maybe I'm just looking for poetic reasons for them to be like, screw home, don't need it anymore.
Well, the greatness of Mana Therin far outshines what the Two Rivers is. And that could be part of it too, which if you look at what Perrin ends up doing with the Two Rivers, like he brings that former glory back.
Yeah.
You know, whereas Egwene and Mat, they're not builders. They're not homemakers.
Right.
You know, and Perrin is.
Yeah.
So of course they'd take it with them wherever they went. But maybe I'm pushing too hard and reaching for something here, but that's where my mind was going with it as I was kind of thinking through it. But it's a really cool. I hadn't thought about that before. That's a really deep thought.
I hadn't thought about it until this reading either, but it's interesting.
When it hits Matt that he blew the horn, it's a magical moment. Like the way it slowly dawns on him just how screwed he is, and he resolves to lie and say that he didn't do it. It's both comical and sad at the same time. Classic Matt. And just when we were about to get into how screwed he is, there's a knock on the door, and he's trapped like a rat. And the chapter ends. Really good writing.
Yeah.
That's it for chapters 18 and 19 of The Dragon Reborn. Join us next week for chapters 20 and 21, where everyone wants a piece of Matt, and Varen introduces Egwene to the world of dreams.
We hope that you enjoyed this episode of the Wheel of Time Pod-Thru.
We'll see you again next week. Make sure you rate and subscribe to us on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. If you could leave us a positive review, it would really help us out. It makes us more visible so more people can find us. You can tweet us at Pod-Thru or email us at whatpodthru@gmail.com and tell us your thoughts on anything we covered today.
That's WOTPODTHRU@gmail.com. Or find our Wheel of Time Pod-Thru channel on YouTube. Like, subscribe, ring the bell, do the things. Thanks, everybody, and we hope the wheel weaves you in our direction again soon. Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You expect me to say more? You totally...
I just expected you to have some sort of acknowledgement. Like, yeah, I don't... That's all.
Okay. Yeah.
No, it's too late now. No. It's too late. I don't want your yas. You keep your yas to yourself.
I'm keeping my yas to myself. Thank you very much.
Anyway, let's continue on with the episode.
Okay.